So I remember every Pride Month when Western companies put rainbows all over their social media profiles or incorporate it into just their logo design. But then if you look at their like Middle Eastern pages where there are stricter anti-LGBT laws, and of course, I love my rainbow version of Wayland Yutani or the Tyrell Corporation or the Wallace Corporation, but what we are seeing with Donald Trump's presidency is basically the death of woke capitalism, particularly in America. But this actually has been going on for like the last year or so, where loads of Western corporations have decided that they don't want to support LGBT rights anymore outwardly. They don't want to support socially progressive things because they can sense the climate is changing in politics. And now Donald Trump is president, they're basically all just bending the knee in such an embarrassing fashion. So just before we go any further, I saw this going around yesterday. So Sam Altman, who's the head of ChatGPT, saying, watching POTUS more carefully recently has really changed my perspective on him. I wish I had done more of my own thinking and definitely fell in the NPC trap. I'm not going to agree with him on everything, but I think he will be incredible for the country in many ways. So that is just the insight into one of these rich tech bros who we are going to be talking about today, but also just generally corporate CEOs. They just feel like now the climate is people don't like social progressivism. And I'd say they'd be wrong, but it just shows you and shows people, like, I guess explicitly, that the thing they were doing in the Middle East with their rainbow banners and pride flags and everything like that by not showing them compared to like America, obviously was all in the cynical pursuit of profit and marketing, because often these corporations would be headed by guys who would give loads of money to the Republican Party anyway and would be personally like homophobic and racist and stuff. So it was all basically a marketing scam to get you to buy their product and feel comfortable supporting their product, when, as we're seeing now across various corporations, it's just very naked that they want to get in bed with the Trump administration, and they feel like to bend the knee, they have to start saying shit about LGBT people, or they have to start getting rid of either hiring practices like DEI or just taking down support for marginalized communities. Now, I think this is a complex issue because before we get into woke capitalism, the one thing I think we can all agree is bad, and I wouldn't see many people defend it, apart from the legal basis of not discriminating against people in like a job, is woke US imperialism. And we saw this rebrand recently. I think there was like a girl boss CIA agent from a minority background and a US soldier with two mums. And that is just like completely woke washing imperialism.
This is the story of a soldier who operates your nation's Patriot missile defense systems. It begins in California, with a little girl raised by two moms. I also marched for equality. I like to think I've been defending freedom from an early age. And after meeting with an Army recruiter, I found it. A way to prove my inner strength and maybe shatter some stereotypes along the way.
When I was 17, I quoted Zora Neale Hurston's How It Feels to Be Colored Me in my college application essay. At 17, I had no idea what life would bring, but Zora's sentiment articulated so beautifully how I felt as a daughter of immigrants then and now. I can wax eloquent on complex legal issues in English while also belting Guayaquil de mis amores in Spanish. I am a woman of color. I am a mom. I am a cisgender millennial who's been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. I am intersectional, but my existence is not a box-checking exercise. I am educated, qualified, and competent, and sometimes I struggle. I struggle feeling like I could do more, be more to my two sons, and I struggle leaving the office when I feel there's so much more to do. I used to struggle with imposter syndrome, but at 36, I refuse to internalize misguided patriarchal ideas of what a woman can or should be. I am tired of feeling like I'm supposed to apologize for the space I occupy rather than intoxicate people with my effort, my brilliance. I am proud of me, full stop. My parents left everything they knew and loved to expose me to opportunities they never had. Because of them, I stand here today a proud, first generation Latina, an officer at CIA, an officer at CIA, an officer at CIA.
And I think that's gross because we see the end result of that, and that is what Israel have done to Gaza while justifying it behind liberal identity politics for Western audiences. So in my opinion, if stuff like that went away in promoting the US Army or like literally the CIA, like the most evil organization on planet Earth, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing as long as like the legal requirements, I guess, within the armed forces aren't discriminating people based on race or gender or anything like that. Because at least with that, you have to realize the US military is the enemy of humanity, and we don't want people from marginalized communities in the heart of the empire joining this armed forces and basically showing them it doesn't benefit them. Now, with woke capitalism, I have some complex thoughts on this, mainly because a lot of these LGBT initiatives, for example, or things about like marginalized history, it comes from employees within a company. And it's not always like a top-down thing. Sometimes it is just employees wanting to push that within their own company. And these companies now getting rid of it, I don't think is a massive positive like it would be for getting rid of it when it comes to the US Armed Forces. So just an article on Newsweek went through like all the corporations doing this after Donald Trump had done some anti-DEI executive orders. So it says, several US companies began scaling back and changing their DEI initiatives in recent months, a trend that has now intensified following President Donald Trump's executive order dismantling federal DEI programs. For some businesses, the rollback on DEI policies was tied to the US Supreme Court decision in June 2023, which ended affirmative action in college admissions. Other companies received pushback from some conservative customers, both in person and online. So just some examples of some companies rolling back DEI recently. So Meta, the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, announced it was getting rid of certain DEI programs earlier this month. The move included diversity programs related to hiring, training, and picking suppliers. Janelle Gale, Vice President of Human Resources at Meta, told CBS that legal and policy landscape surrounding diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts in the US is changing, which prompted the pivot, meaning they're just, trying to be more in line with the fascist Trump administration, so that's good. McDonald's also revised its DEI protocols last year. Walmart did this earlier this year. This included no longer considering race and gender when awarding supplier contracts, and not renewing a 5-year commitment to an equity racial center set up in 2020 after the murder of George Floyd. And I'm going to talk about Facebook and Amazon in a bit more detail, but Amazon earlier this month announced they are altering their approach to DEI as well. A statement from Candy Castleberry, Amazon's VP of Inclusive Experiences and Technology, said, as part of this evolution, we've been winding down outdated programs and materials, and we're aiming to complete that by the end of 2024. You also have like American Airlines, Starbucks, Lowe's, and a couple others, and this follows Donald Trump's executive order, which ended DEI programs in the federal government. It directed all of them to place DEI staff on paid admin leave and dismantle their departments. It further mandated that all DEI initiatives, contracts, and websites be removed. So why I'm bringing up the DEI stuff first is because this is the element of the death of woke capitalism that really hurts people and actually hurts equality in the workplace, because they're saying it's not equality to hire people based on like race and gender, and people have conjured up this image that anyone who gets a top job, if they're black or transgender or gay or something like that, that means they only got that job because of their identity. These programs incentivized workplaces to look and reflect more the society they were in. Anyone who actually believes these corporations wouldn't hire good people for their jobs and hire people that they think would be the best fit for their companies in either culture or experience is just like absolutely deluding themselves. And what it's going to be is an excuse to just discriminate against people. It's going to be used to discriminate against black people and just primarily hire more white men. And why it's also terrible, because it reflects the culture so much that they all feel comfortable doing this now. They don't fear backlash from society. They don't fear backlash from the government or from shareholders. The worst thing about Donald Trump the first time was that he emboldened so many people to just be insanely racist and bigoted because he would just say it. So everyone thought, now I can say it too. It's gone a step further now, where while everyone back in the day, like your Zuckerbergs and everything, would look on in horror as Donald Trump would say terrible things about every marginalized groups, now they're revealing their true face and being like, hell yeah, I'm going to do this at policy level. So this was the most stupid one I saw Mark Zuckerberg orders to remove tampons from men's restrooms at Facebook parent Meta's offices. These had been provided to support non-binary and transgender employees who might need them. Facility managers across Meta's Silicon Valley, Texas, and New York offices were ordered to get rid of tampons and sanitary pads from the men's bathrooms, according to a report in the New York Times. The New York Times report also said that these changes have sparked internal controversy, and on the company's internal platform Workplace, employees in the Pride group expressed concerns and objections, and some even announced their resignation or plans to leave the company. Meta's chief marketing officer, Alex Schultz, attempted to address the concerns in a post suggesting that issues like transgender rights had become politicized. So on the Facebook one, it's just purely pathetic for people like Zuckerberg to put these policies in to remove tampons from the men's bathrooms. Like, it's just so ridiculous. But also, you can see what they're doing. They can say, well, we're not technically discriminating against you based on gender, but let me just make you feel really, really unwelcome in this workplace and show you to your face that, yeah, we're changing our rules to make you feel less secure at work and feel like you're less accepted. And we're going to get all the corporate heads of these companies to justify it. Transgender rights has become politicized. Well, who politicized it to an insane degree? Who only talks about it? Hateful, bigoted conservatives, right? So they've politicized it in this way, but you're giving in to what they want. They want this done. It's such a cowardly excuse. But talking about one last supervillain, Jeff Bezos. So he deletes LGBTQ plus rights and equity for black people from Amazon corporate policies. They've recently made several major internal changes, including removing a statement advocating for LGBTQ rights and racial equity from its public listing of corporate policies. Amazon's website previously stated the company stood in solidarity with black employees and customers and supported legislation to combat misconduct and racial bias in policing, efforts to protect and expand voting rights, and initiatives that provide better health and educational outcomes for black people, and this section has been deleted. References to federal and state laws that safeguard transgender individuals, along with mentions of the company's health benefits for transgender employees, were also omitted. Amazon's decision to eliminate the section on gender-affirming healthcare benefits has sparked concern that employees may lose insurance coverage for gender-affirming treatments. So I think that Amazon example perfectly sums up just like the problems with the death of woke capitalism, because on one hand, the silver lining of companies like Amazon removing like just statements about supporting reforms to police and supporting like black civil rights and supporting the LGBT community, everyone knows it's like one of the most evil companies in the world, so we didn't buy that, right? But why there's a silver lining is because now that's gone, people can realize, oh yeah, these companies are just like fucking evil. There's like no redeeming qualities about them because they're not even promoting like the bare minimum of like corporate liberal woke washing of their terrible business practices and their active targeting of union movements. So, you know, when we see the rainbow flag not appearing on these things anymore, that's the silver lining to me, because like with woke imperialism, it hopefully makes people realize, especially either marginalized people or people who support the rights of marginalized communities but might be like ignorant about political theory or economic theory, makes them realize that, yeah, corporations are not your friend. You cannot change the system from within, because in the pursuit of maximum profit, companies will always do what they feel is to their benefit. So what we're seeing right now is maybe not them taking the temperature of like, I don't know, American customers. It's more about cozying up to the political elite, Donald Trump and the conservatives in the Republican Party, who hate social progressive change. But as you can also see in all these examples, what actually results in is actual harm to employees. So it's talking there now transgender employees at Amazon are now like, you know, will my health coverage cover stuff related to like gender affirming care or something like that? And obviously it both creates a hostile environment for these people itself, emboldens terrible people within the workforce to discriminate, and also has the real impact of people like losing their healthcare, which in America is tied to their employment. Now, one criticism people might say is, well, you know, these people should know better. They shouldn't work for these terrible companies. And I'm just going to say, you know, under capitalism, people just have to get jobs to survive, right? And yes, of course, there may be companies a lot of us wouldn't work for as like principled leftists who really believe in like leftist values and really try and live our values. But most people around the world are not left-wing, and they don't even really understand having these values in the first place because of capitalist realism. So the adoption of woke capitalism by these corporations obviously had its downsides, but the positive side was they were reacting to this progressive change that was being enacted in society and making their workplaces more accommodating for these marginalized groups and people who have to go and work in these places, right? So obviously the huge downside is with fascism rising around the world, now the corporations have decided we're going to openly side with the fascists, and you saw all those tech bros at the inauguration, and we're going to roll back all these protections and benefits for our marginalized employees and basically make them feel terrible about even getting jobs here and emboldening people to say they're all like diversity hires who have no right to these jobs. And it's only going to get worse and worse, and we're going to see the effects of this in increasing discrimination, loads of like health benefits being rolled away, and just people being like really vindictive, like removing the tampons from the men's bathroom. It just feels like so pointless and just being cruel. So you can have this display to the Trump administration to say, oh yeah, we're actually on your side. So that is it for the video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, and if you made it this far, thank you for watching.